My last end of the year horror list flows over into the other love of my life, comic books. Not just any comic books, horror comic books. Horror is at a resurgence in the past year. Heroes have proven to leave their audiences wanting. But horror seems to be stronger than ever in the cinemas as well as your local comic shops. Being an enormous fan of comics and a published writer of quite a few of them, I tend to pay attention to what's new and good in horror comics, and these are the ones that impacted me the most over the last year. Welcome back to ML Miller Frights. I'm ML Miller. Before we begin, please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals. Click subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for notifications. Here are my picks for the best horror comic books of 2023. BRYNMORE from Image Comics has a story from Steve Niles with art from Damien Worm. Steve Niles returned big time this year with his occasional artist in tow, Damien Worm, with BRYNMORE. It's a dark tale about a man who unearths an age-old crypt from his basement in an old house. The superstitious town is leery of the man and what he may unleash. This one gave me old-school horror flick vibes, and while the series came to a close, I'm hoping Niles returns with the sequel sometime soon, as this one feels like it's just the setup to an interesting world. Nightclub is from Image Comics. The story is by Mark Millar, with art by Juanan Ramirez. Mark Millar continues his winning streak with a story about a trio of kids who are bitten and turned into vampires. Instead of becoming villainous creatures of the night, they don masks and become superheroes. Millar's superpower is that he comes up with wonderful premises that approaches comic book tropes from a slightly different angle, and this is one of his best, as the trio of new vampires confront a gang of old vampires bent on taking them out. The art by Juanan Ramirez makes everything vivid, superhero-y, yet still exudes a gothic feel. It's superheroes, it's horror, it's better than you might imagine. Blade, from Marvel Comics, has a story by Bryan Edward Hill with art by Elena Casagrande, Valentina Pinti, and Roberto Poggi. While Marvel tried to win the world over with the daughter of Blade, we were all waiting for someone to come along and make Blade awesome again. And Bryan Edward Hill is that writer. He writes Blade as if Wesley Snipes is playing him in a movie, with a bigger budget than all Blade movies combined. Basically, it's everything we wanted for years, and this is one of the few Marvel titles that gets horror right. I wish there were more like this one. HARROWER is from Boom Studios. The story is by Justin Jordan, with art by Brahm Revel. Longtime comic book horror scribe Justin Jordan was on a podcast with me a while back when I believe he came up with the concept for this book. It's about a small town haunted by a masked killer and a dark secret that town is keeping in order to keep things on an even keel. HARROWER is a winner. It's suspenseful and gory and brutal and takes the slasher story into places where you aren't going to be able to predict. PLUSH is from Image Comics. The story is by Doug Wagner, with art by Daniel Hillyard. PLUSH was one of my favorite comics of the year because it deals with something I'm rather fascinated with. The world of furries. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a furry myself, and I don't want to kink shame anyone, but I also want to acknowledge that this is a weird subculture, and while PLUSH isn't doing that subculture any favors by making the group of furries in this book into cannibals, Doug Wagner and his artist, Daniel Hillyard, make it one hell of a fun ride. If you're looking for offbeat horror that definitely is outside of the mainstream, this one is the go-to. The Approach is from Boom Studios. The story is by Jason A. Hurley and Jeremy Haun, with art by Jesus Hervas. The Approach is a simple premise. What if you took the premise of John Carpenter's The Thing and put it in a snowbound airport? And you know what? It works. Jesus Hervas delivers some horrifyingly gruesome tentacle monsters and some fantastic Arctic action, while Jason A. Hurley and Jeremy Haun manage a large cast and pumps each issue full of gnarly body horror. I highly recommend this one. Red Room, Crypto KILLAZ, is from Fantagraphics books. The story and art are by Ed Piskor. This follow-up to his successful and controversial first Red Room series doubles down on the grotesque concepts and gore that will make the hardest stomach churn. The Red Room is an online snuff site, and each issue follows one of the torturers doing what they do best. Nothing is off limits with this over-the-top book. Ed Piskor has developed a glimpse into a world we hoped doesn't really exist, with highly detailed artwork that takes up every inch of the comic book page. This second series ties some of the plots together, and while Piskor says this is the last one, I'm hoping he will return to this horrifying and dangerous world sometime in the future. HAIRBALL is from Dark Horse Comics. The story is by Matt Kindt, with art by Tyler Jenkins. This is the story of a girl and her cat, which could be considered sweet and wholesome, if not for the fact that no matter how hard the little girl tries, she can't get rid of or kill this demon kitty who is making her life a living hell. While I feel the last issue of this series kind of lost me, the first 3 issues will have you on the edge of your seat with all kinds of disgusting instances cat lovers will recognize. If you have a cat, you've always wondered what kind of evil thoughts are going on in their heads when they get a wild hair or simply stare at you maniacally from across the room. This series answers those questions in nightmarish fashion. Phantom Road is from Image Comics. The story is by Jeff Lemire, with art by Gabriel Hernandez Walta. I continue to be intrigued by Jeff Lemire and Gabriel Hernandez Walta's road story, where a pair of travelers who meet by happenstance find themselves cursed to travel down a road that seemingly has no end, with some kind of monstrous cargo in the back of their truck. With shambling corpses gathering around the vehicle every time they stop, this trek is a nightmare that won't end. Are they in purgatory? Are they dead? Are they in another dimension? I don't know, but I can't wait to see how it all wraps up. Something is Killing the Children is from Boom Studios. The story is by James Tynion IV, with art by Werther Dell'Edera. While I've kind of lost interest in House of Slaughter, and the upcoming Book of Butcher doesn't seem to be much different, still I've been keeping up with the main title, Something is Killing the Children. I love the monsters. Erica the Monster Hunter is a fascinating protagonist, and while Tynion sure knows how to prolong a story, it still continues to be a compelling and suspenseful read each and every month. Blue Book is from Dark Horse Comics. The story is by James Tynion IV, with art by Michael Avon Oeming. 2 titans of comic book publishing, James Tynion IV and Michael Avon Oeming, pair up to delve into the paranormal cases of Project Blue Book, the department of the government that investigated UFO phenomena in the 50s and 60s. This first miniseries looked at the Betty and Barney Hill abduction investigation, and while the story has been told many times, it's never been told in such a vivid and deeply personal way as it does in Blue Book. I'm hoping Tynion and Oeming pair up soon to bring to life more UFO cases in comic book form in the coming year. As a fan of all things paranormal and UFO/UAP, this one was one I read as soon as I got home from the comic store every month. Universal Monsters Dracula is from Skybound Entertainment. It's written by James Tynion IV, with art by Martin Simons. James Tynion IV is a prolific writer of comics, which means there's a lot of his work to choose from on the comic book shelves. But if you read only one Tynion comic book this year, it's got to be his adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula through the Universal Monster lens. Martin Simons tops his own excellent work with Tynion in the past with this gorgeous and gothic interpretation of the Prince of Darkness, and Renfield has never been brought to life so well in any medium. This is top-tier perfection of comic book writing and art. Finally, Ice Cream Man is from Image Comics. The story is by W. Maxwell Prince, with art by Martin Morazzo. While all of the books on this list are worth seeking out, if you check out only one, it has to be Ice Cream Man. It's an anthology series, kind of like Twilight Zone, where each story tells a different tale filled with twists, morality issues, and the stuff of nightmares oozing from every page. W. Maxwell Prince is a master at the single-issue story, making each one vastly different from the last, and not only filled with oddity, but also tapping into emotions you'll be afraid to acknowledge and relate to. Only 4 issues came out this year, but they were better than pretty much anything else every other horror book attempted. Just seek out this series, and while you're at it, check out Prince's other series, Ha Ha, which features various clown single-issue horror stories, and Swan Songs, another dramatic anthology that focuses on an ending of something in each issue. Well, that's it for my best of, worst of lists for now. I'm sure more will be popping up in the future, but I'm looking forward to making single movie review videos again very soon. I also will have a few posts regarding the future of this YouTube channel, as well as some fun announcements about my own creative endeavors very soon. Until then, I wish you the best of the holiday season, what's left of it that is, and I can't wait to see what 2024 has in store for all of us.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your